Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Master Builder Show. I'm your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. I am president of the Gibson Home Builders Incorporated. I'm also a graduate master builder certified by the National Association of Home Builders. I'm a member of the North Texas Green Building Council and the U.S. Green Building Council. My guest today is Jim Kuhner with Benefit Light Financial. Jim is the owner of Benefit Light Financial and his new company, Wealth Education Strategies. It's a company dedicated to providing financial education. He's also a faculty member with the prestigious National Institute of Financial Education. He teaches Borrow Smart workshops to consumers and continuing education courses for realtors, CPAs, CFPs, HR departments, and he offers special training in the convergence of asset and liability management, and provides unique approach to building wealth. He is a leading provider of strategy content, tools, and education in eliminating unnecessary wealth transfers. He currently has 2 books that he's co-authored. He's currently being published. The first is Setting on Your Assets, and the second, Borrow Smart, Retire Rich. Welcome, sir, to the Master Builder Show. How are you this morning?
Great, Jim. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. What can you tell us about this Borrow Smart workshop that you provide to the consumer? What do they do?
Well, basically, we teach consumers how to manage liabilities into assets. The program is a unique process where it's designed to increase the wealth of a client through the management of their liabilities. We also identify wealth transfers that might be happening to people unknowingly and unnecessarily by looking at both sides of the balance sheet, assets and liabilities, as they relate to a person's net worth.
Well, when you talk about liabilities, as a custom builder, and I'm interacting with my clients in the past, I'd assume a person's house and mortgage would be a major part of a person's liability management. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. It is important that I clarify to your listeners the difference we make when talking about a person's house and a person's home. The home is your emotional experience that you have in your house. It's such as, it's the emotional experience you have in your home, such as hobbies, security, relaxation, a place to be with your family. The house is the physical shelter. It deals with logical reasoning as it relates to appreciation, opportunities, tax benefits, leverage, credit, mortgages, and so forth. We really focus on the house as a financial tool to examine in the management of the wealth process.
That's pretty interesting. As a builder, I never really looked at the difference. Well, yeah, I have looked at the difference before. I can see that my focus is more on the construction and, the physical part of the shelter, which is the house. So when I go in, I actually build a house. I try to build a home, but that's not possible for me to do. So just mention the house pertains to tax benefits, leverage, credit, mortgages. I guess that's your focus when you're talking about managing liabilities into assets.
That's correct, Jim. Let me share with your listeners 3 key statistics that were just updated March of this year. And we look at this information for trends with the house and with wealth in America. 28% of America's wealth is inside the house. 19% of Americans' debt is not tax preferred. And 65% of Americans have more wealth in their house than all other investments combined.
Tax preferred, don't you mean tax deductible?
That's right. We use both tax preferred and tax deductible basically as synonymous with each other. Let me also put some statistics into actual dollar amounts, especially as it relates to the net equity in the house in America and the non-deductible debt that Americans hold. These numbers, again, were just updated in March of this year. The total value of the house in America is $20.9 trillion. By contrast, the total value of equities or stock holdings in America is $20.0 trillion. So actually, the total value in the house exceeds what's in the stock market. However, the total value in the house has to be subtracted from mortgage debt if you want to look at net equity in the house. And that figure is $10.4 trillion in mortgages, and that would net out $10.5 trillion that Americans have in their house as far as net equity. And that's the 28% figure of wealth that's inside the house I mentioned before. I also mentioned that 19% of America's debt is not tax deductible. This would be credit cards, personal debt, car debts, installment notes, and so forth. This figure is at $2.5 trillion.
Wow, says I made a note something about 65% of Americans have more wealth inside their house than all other investments. Obviously, can't even talk today. If you are managing liabilities such as a mortgage into assets, understanding your financial aspects of owning a house is very important, is it not?
Yes, it is. Understanding things such as tax deductions, down payments, appreciation, equity, and so forth are very important, especially understanding the interrelationships of these components of the house ownership.
Is there one thing more important than the other?
Maybe. They are all interrelated when looking at the process as a whole. I would say the key component, however, is the relationship of the mortgage to other types of non-deductible debt. In other words, equity in the house or maybe the lack of equity to other non-deductible credit debt.
All right. Let's see here. We're going to give away probably some gift certificates here later on in the show. I think you were talking about some CDs and stuff that I believe we're going to give away. And one of them was, what was that first CD you were talking about?
What it's about is it's entitled "Who Holds This Piece at Your House?" And peace actually has to do with control. So, in other words, who holds control at your house? All right.
And briefly, what does that cover?
Well, what it talks about is it talks about tax deductions, equity, down payments, appreciation in the home. It's about a 6-minute DVD. Really what it points out to people is it shows people who actually has control of their house. And many people will be quite surprised who actually has control.
Yeah, today we're talking about house as an investment, I guess, primarily, or investing in a house. If anybody out there has any questions, they can call us at 877-341-8950. That's 877-341-8950. A large down payment will save you money on your mortgage over time. Is that true or false? That's one of the questions we're going to ask.
Right. In other words, we have a quiz, and we were going to give a house quiz of 4 questions. Whoever gets the right answer will receive a $50 gift certificate to Chili's. They can pick that up at the studio.
We're going to have to answer all 4 questions?
They have to answer all 4 questions correct, and it's the first person who gets the answers correct. They need to send an email to you, Jim?
We're going to do this live on the air, or are we going to... No, let's go with emails on this one.
All right.
All right. Yeah, they can reach me at jim@masterbuildershow.com. That's jim@masterbuildershow.com, and you might have a pencil ready to write these questions down. This is going to be for $50 gift certificates. Looks like we're going to have to take a break here. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties with a selection of interior and exterior lighting fixtures. They also have ceiling fans, mirrors, and vanities in all sizes. A lighting consultant will help you with your decisions. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
North Texas Basements, 817-770-2768. With over 30 years of experience in residential construction, add extra living area, storm protection, and extra room that will be easy to heat and cool without needing a large piece of ground to build on. Think about having a basement in your next home. North Texas Basements, 817-770-BSMT or 817-770-2768. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guest today is Jim Kuhner, and he's owner of Benefit Light Financial, and his new company is Wealth Education Strategies, and we're talking about some wealth education strategies, I guess, today. It's investing in your home, or what makes a home instead of a house. Or
Well, that's right, Jim. It's the house, not the home.
Anyway, we're going to ask some questions here, and these are going to be answered over the internet. And you can answer the questions by going to Jim at masterbuildershow.com. That's Jim at masterbuildershow.com. You want to read the question?
Sure. We're going to give out a $50 gift certificate to the first person who answers these questions correctly. They're true, false. Question number 1, a large down payment will save you more money on your mortgage over time than a small down payment. Again, a large down payment will save you more money on your mortgage over time than a small down payment. True or false? The second question, a 15-year mortgage will save you more money over time than a 30-year mortgage. Again, the second question, a 15-year mortgage will save more money over time than a 30-year mortgage. True or false? The third question, making extra principal payments saves you money. Again, the third question, making extra principal payments saves you money. True or false? The final question, question number 4, the interest rate is the main factor in determining the cost of a mortgage.
We can take it.
Again, the interest rate is the main factor in determining the cost of a mortgage. True or false?
All right, let's see. Now, when we're talking about, what do you think on this whole house piece that you have here? When we're going to talk about that, we're going to give that away later also, aren't we?
Right. In other words,
CD.
I have anybody that wants one of these CDs, if they email in to you at jim@masterbuildershow.com, I'll send them out the DVD that itemizes all these issues that we're talking about today. They'll have to leave their address so we can mail the DVD out to them.
We're going to give away the DVD on these questions also?
Well, no, the DVD is just it's a freebie, so to speak. Anybody that wants one just needs to email in their address, and then we'll send out the DVD for them.
Okay, email your address to Jim at GibsonHomebuilders.com, Jim at GibsonHomebuilders.com, or Jim at MasterBuildersShow.com. Now, okay, let's send in the emails and get the answers, and we'll be announcing the winner at the, well, no, we're not going to, I don't have any way to announce the winner at the end of the show.
No, what we'll do is we'll contact the winner via email, and then they can, they'll know to come pick up their gift certificate.
All right. When you talk about the test, what's that?
Oh, well, you know, when I thought about this test, it kind of reminded me of when I was in college. It's kind of interesting. I'll never forget the geology class I was in, and you know, the class started at 8 o'clock a.m. It was in a big auditorium. It was when I was a senior, and I was my spring break in my senior year, and I'd pretty much had it with college, and so a lot of people were sleeping through the class and so forth, but at the final exam, it was geology, and the professor loaded the final exam. 60% of the final exam was some rocks that were out in the hallway, and nobody paid attention to those rocks, so that was quite an experience.
I bet there are a lot of people wanting to take that test over, huh?
You betcha, but I didn't trust that professor to begin with, so I actually studied that rock display and did quite well on the test.
Okay, you brought up an interesting thing about the last break, that there a lot of people earn as far as a rate of return on their equity of their house. What are you talking about there?
Well, the rate of return on equity in the house, it's a very interesting discussion. Most people confuse appreciation with the rate of return on the money that is inside the house.
What do you mean?
Well, first, let's define rate of return. When we talk about the house, it is the rate of return on the equity inside the house. Now, what if I asked you to make an investment, and I guarantee you 0% rate of return, and that's before inflation? How much do you want to invest with me, Jim?
Well, if you mean 0%, I'm not going to put in hardly anything.
I do mean 0% and no more. You see, house equity always earns 0%. And equity in a house can only increase through principal repayment and appreciation. It's kind of difficult to show numeric numbers on the radio. So let's just look at two broad explanations on why equity in the house makes 0% rate of return. If you put like zero down on a 30-year mortgage, you have no principal repayment, and let's say there's no appreciation, what is the return on your equity?
I don't know.
It would be zero.
Okay.
And, because what I did was I took out the principal repayment and the appreciation factors, so you actually end up with the same amount of equity in the house that you start with. That's one way to look at it. Another way to explain it is this. Let's say that you make extra payments on your mortgage, which a lot of people do. You're basically taking money from one pocket, let's say your checking account, and moving it into your other pocket, which is your house account. There is no change to your balance sheet. That transaction is a balance sheet neutral, and there's no change to your net worth. Again, that's why we say you make 0% return on equity in a house.
I know as a custom builder, our clients they often discuss how much money they are going to put down on their house. And for many of our clients, the house we build for is going up. It's going to be their last house.
Right.
And what's your opinion on a large down payment? I mean, do they want to put down as much money as possible, or do you want to kind of hold back?
Well, let me ask you two questions as far as a large down payment. Do you earn interest on your down payment?
No.
Is the down payment money accessible? In other words, if you need it today, can you go get it?
No.
So what you've done is you've locked that money up in the house, and you're not even earning interest on it. So does that make a lot of sense to make a large down payment?
Well, not if I can use the money better and more wisely.
Right. Most people make a large down payment because they want a smaller monthly payment each month, and cash flow can be an issue. But what we're trying to point out to people is it should be a personal choice based upon logic and based upon financial reasoning. And once people have some of this information, their perception on large down payments become quite different. Now, let's just say, for example, that you and I buy a house, Jim, and you have more money than I do, so you pay $400,000 cash. In other words, you make the largest down payment you can.
Right.
Well, what I do is I decide that I'm not going to put any money down because I have really good credit, and the bank says, well, you don't have to put any money down. Now, I take out basically a 0% interest loan, and I finance 100% of it. So I have $400,000 outside of my house,
right,
and you have $400,000 inside of your house.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, I put my money someplace where it earns 8% for 30 years, and if I did that and I had the money outside the house, I would have made in 30 years $3,974,000 and some change. Again, that's $3.9 million that I was able to earn with that money outside the house. That's above the $400,000 down payment that you had locked up in your house. Yeah, so guess what, Jim? You know what I'm saying?
I know I can't get 8% anywhere.
Well, there's places you might get 8%. This is just a numeric example, Jim. Whether it's 6%, 5%, really it's the concept that matters.
All right. Looks like we got to take another break here. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you looking for a law firm with an understanding of the construction industry? Kelly M. Davis & Associates experience includes home inspections, construction contracts, disputes with builders, and helping subcontractors or vendors that have not been paid for their services. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009.
Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Principal offices are located in Louisville, Texas.
Alamo Appliance, 100 South Riverside Drive in Fort Worth, has been dedicated to serving your needs in kitchen appliances for over 35 years. They offer Genair, KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Amana, and many others. Their experienced sales staff will help you make the right decisions at the right time. That's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701. Once again, that's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford, and my guest today is Jim Kuhner with Benefit Light Financial. And we were talking about investing your money in a house and down payment, and whether putting a large down payment was wise. And it all depends on the person. It's a personal choice. And you were trying to explain that. And you were saying that if I put down like $400,000 on the house to take down my principal, and you put $400,000 in the account at a ridiculous 8%, but you'd make about $3.9 million over a 30-year period, whether I'd just make whatever the house appreciated if we sold it and they were in both the same neighborhood. Is that correct?
Basically, yes. In other words, I invested the money outside the house, and whether you make 8% or 4%, it's really the concept here that we're taking a look at. So you had $400,000 in your house, inside the house. I took the same $400,000 and put it outside the house. Now, you also have to take into consideration that you're not going to have, I'm going to have payments and you're not going to have payments. So that's another thing that you can factor into it, and that would reduce the $3.9 million also. But when you do the numbers, you still come out ahead most of the time with money outside of the house. We're going to talk about a calculation here in a few minutes, Jim, that really shows someone how to make this decision regarding the house. But the bottom line is, if we were in the same neighborhood and our house was in relatively the same condition, regardless of whether or not you have the money in the house or outside of the houses are going to sell for pretty much the same price. Right.
Okay. So, I guess, so my question is, where's your $3 million or $3.9 million that I have and you don't? Or that's your...
No, actually, I have the money, Jim. You don't, because
right.
you left your money in the house, and I used the money outside the house because I thought I could make a greater rate of return. It's important also to note that when you do this sort of strategy, you want to make sure that the money outside the house is in a conservative type of investment return, because you don't want to risk that factor. Now, really what we're talking about here is we're talking about opportunity cost. In other words, if you park the money outside of the house in a conservative type of place or conservative type of investment, instead of paying cash or making a large down payment, what happens is you have an opportunity cost that are associated with parking the money outside of the house. So another way to look at it is if you leave money inside of the house and you're not making a return on that money inside of the house, then that's costing you money that you could be making outside of the house, and we call that opportunity cost.
There's quite a bit of risk there, though, aren't there? Or you're saying put it in like fixed interest funds? Or,
right. In other words, I'm actually talking about putting it into something that's basically conservative and it's guaranteed. I really don't want to get into individual products on today, because what we're really dealing with today is the process. We're dealing with strategies and the process of how you can look at different financial situations as it relates to the house.
And again, I'm not making any suggestions one way or the other on this, but it's going to be an individual's choice as to what they want to do, whether they want a low payment or whether they want to make money in the long run, correct?
Absolutely. We'll get to a calculation here in a little bit that basically will show somebody how to make that determination.
All right. If y'all have any questions, you can email us at masterbuildershow.com or Jim at masterbuildershow.com. And if you've got any questions that you want to ask us, you can call us at 877-341-8950, 877-341-8950. You want to give us some more examples?
Well, sure. Let's say we have the same $400,000 house that we just bought, each of us. But this time you put down $200,000 because you listened to about half of what I told you, Jim.
That's about what I do normally.
Right. Now, let's just say that inflation is 3.5%, and in 30 years, your current $200,000 of equity will be worth $61,664. Now, what this basically illustrates, let me repeat that. Let's say that you put $200,000 down on the house, and in 30 years, if you have an inflation rate of 3.5%, that $200,000 is now going to be worth $61,664 because of the effect of inflation with purchasing power. So when you look at inflation, why would you want to put money down on a house today when the money's worth a lot more than it will be worth in the future?
So if, but what if I'm like close to retirement, like 55, and I don't have, well, I might have 30 years, I might have 40 years, but would I not be more wise to put down as much as I could to pay off the house?
Well, really, it depends on personal preference, like you said earlier. Part of what we do with looking at wealth strategies is we're really big on the luck factor, LUC. That's liquidity, use, and control of your money. So when you make these decisions, you really got to look at those factors. In other words, who has control of the money? Is it liquid? And the luck factor is something that we are very concerned about, because if something happens bad to someone, like a disability or something like that, it really has to do with who has control. For example, if you've got that $400,000 locked up in the house and you lose your job and you go to the bank and you say, I want to refinance, the bank's probably going to say no.
Right. So I wouldn't be able to pull my equity?
In many cases, if you have a life-changing event, that equity can be locked up in the house. And also, let's look at another factor. The financial institution is in control. The more equity you have in a house, if you have something devastating that happens to you, the quicker they might foreclose, because they don't have any risk associated with that house, because they're going to be able to get their money back.
This is definitely not what our parents taught us. I mean, they always wanted to pay off their house as soon as possible, and I knew my parents. I think my dad, paid cash for his first house. Of course, it wasn't that big a house, but he didn't have a house payment, and that's pretty well the way I was brought up.
Well, I understand what you're saying. My parents had their house paid off also. One of the things you got to take a look at is most of our parents were exposed to the Depression. And back then, from my understanding, banks had what they called demand notes. And they could just come in and demand you pay the balance all at once that was owed on a house, or they could take it. So our parents were exposed to that. A lot of people lost their homes. So that's why this thinking, or this conventional wisdom, was developed that said that you should try to pay your house off as soon as you can.
So I guess what you're saying then is, will a house appreciate or depreciate based on market condition? Is that right?
Right. In other words, that's really the only thing that affects your net worth as far as your balance sheet. It's whether or not the house appreciates or whether or not the house depreciates. The other thing, too, is mortgages are different now, and they're actually A lot of times you can be very creative with mortgage planning. Like, for example, if you have good documentation, I know there's a credit crisis out there, but good documentation, if you got a good credit score, you can get 0% interest loans for 10 years, and then most people will refinance their home in 4.5 to 6 years anyway. So by paying zero interest, a lot of times you can lower your cash flow and you have additional money outside the home. If you also have equity in the home, by refinancing, many times you can pay off non-deductible debt, and we discussed non-deductible debt and equity in the home at the beginning of the show, Jim.
Right. Well, do you have some secret potion or magical wand on what we need to do individually?
Well, I do, but let me just say this. The initial decision to locate money inside or outside the house has no immediate impact on the net worth. Now, that may sound contradictory to what I said, but what I'm saying is it has no immediate impact. But in the long term, there can be a tremendous impact on future wealth. So the decision to locate money inside the house or outside the house really is a long-term choice, and you won't see an immediate impact, but you can see an impact over a long period of time.
Well, I know that with the ups and downs of the stock market here lately, I would be, as a young kid, you take more risk as far as your investments. And I know a bunch of them out there are buying some pretty nice homes and putting minimal down and making investments in the stock market. And some of them are doing quite well, but some of them are losing their shirt, too. That's the reason we've got so many repossessions, I guess, out there on the market today.
Well, that's true. And really what happened there was a lot of people were talked into negative amortization loans. And basically, the average person probably doesn't understand how those work. Many of them give you a choice of 3 or 4 payments each month. And nature being the way it is, most people will take the path of least resistance, make the lowest payment, and then say, well, I'll catch up next month. Well, what happens is over a short period of time, you end up being upside down in the mortgage where the house is worth less than what you owe.
Right. And we had something called the effective percentage rate. And what is that?
That's right. We talked earlier about I would give you the listeners a way to calculate whether or not it makes sense to put the money inside the house or outside the house. We use a term called effective percentage rate. Basically what this is it has to do with whether or not there's a tax deduction involved, and then you calculate the effective percentage rate or the actual cost of the money. For example, if you're being charged 7% for a mortgage loan, and this is just as an example, I'm not really citing or quoting what current mortgage rates are, and if you're in a 32% tax bracket, well, then you multiply your tax bracket times the deduction, the mortgage loan interest rate. So it's 32% times the interest rate of 7, so that's 2.24%. Let me say that again. In other words, you take your mortgage rate, you multiply that times your effective tax rate, and it's actually your highest marginal rate. It's not at the lower end of the brackets for those who understand, the tax brackets. So you have a 7% mortgage rate. You multiply it by your tax bracket, let's just say 32%. That equals 2.24%. So you subtract the 7 from the 2.24, or the 2.24, from the 7. You have an effective percentage rate or an effective cost to that money of 4.76. So the cost of the money, Jim, is 4.76%.
Okay, well, I guess your math is correct, but how can our listeners use the effective percentage rate number? I mean, what benefit is it to them?
Well, really, it's all about what we call leverage and arbitrage. In other words, if you borrow the money at one rate, and then you can put the money someplace else and earn a higher rate with certainty, with some certainty, then that arbitrage or that leverage will actually benefit you. So, if you're getting charged 4.76% and you can put the money somewhere and make 5% guaranteed, well, you probably would want to do that all day, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially in today's market.
Right. So let's just say you have an extra $1,000 that you want to invest in each month over a 30-year period. We're going to use the same interest rate as far as what you can earn outside of the house of the mortgage that we just spoke about, as far as 7%. Now, this is just an example, and I don't want the listeners to get all caught up with these numbers. I'm just giving an example of how you can use the effective percentage rate or the EPR. So, again, we're going to say that you have an extra $1,000 a month that you can either put towards your mortgage or you can put toward an outside conservative investment. In other words, the question is whether or not to park the money in the house or outside the house. So let's just say that using that example, you can make 7% outside the house, net after tax. And then let's say that the net after tax or the effective percentage rate of money inside the house, remember that was 4.76.
Right.
So the spread there, the difference, I don't care if it's 6% or 7%, the cost of the money is 4.76. So the question is, would you be better off making the extra payment on your mortgage where you're basically earning 4.76% because that's what you're saving in interest, or would you be better taking that $1,000 and putting it someplace where you make the 6% or the 7%? So that's what we talk about that's what we're speaking about when we're talking about arbitrage or leverage. It's really how to leverage money. And that's why a lot of wealthy people, Jim, they don't pay cash for their home even though they can afford it.
Right.
They have mortgages because they want the leverage.
All right. There's also 3 types of money. What 3 types of money are there?
Okay, basically, we do identify 3 types of money when we look at someone's balance sheet. The first type of money is what we call accumulated money. Now, most financial advisors, when they speak with a client, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can identify with this, they'll call them up or they'll talk to them and they'll say, well, how much money do you have?
0. How's that?
Right. Well, they're always going after their accumulated money.
Right.
And then I'm sure that your listeners can also identify with this. Then the next thing out of that financial advisor's mouth will be, well, what was your rate of return last year, Jim, on your accumulated money?
3%.
Well, Jim, I can do better than that. We've got experts and we've got a research department, and I can get you 5%. See, that's basically what most of these financial advisors will say is they're gonna go after your accumulated money, and then they're also going to say, well, I can get you a better rate of return than that.
Right.
Well, we don't really think that rate of return is the key because we look at a couple other things and we're real conservative with what we want to do and how we want to grow money. But the second type of money, Jim, is lifestyle money.
That's what I need.
That's what everyone wants. Well, first of all, in our planning, we don't really touch the lifestyle money. In fact, if we can, we like to increase the lifestyle money. I'm sure that you don't want to reduce your lifestyle, do you, Jim?
No, I like to travel a lot.
Yeah, well, most people don't. People don't want you to mess with their lifestyle money, and a lot of times if you don't have a lot of accumulated money, well, then the financial advisor is going to say, well, you're going to have to give up that coffee at Starbucks or that latte. There's been some information out there and some books and stuff that shows you how much you save if you don't go to Starbucks and buy a cup of coffee each day, Jim.
Yeah, I know. About $6 a cup.
Well, whatever. I mean, that's the lifestyle money, and we don't go after the lifestyle money. What we do is we do something totally different when we're looking at the assets and the balance sheet and the liabilities. We talked earlier about some of these liability issues and how to manage the liability, how to manage the mortgage. Well, one of the things we look at, and it's part of the mortgage analysis, deals with transferred money. In other words, we're talking about 3 types of money, and I'm going to repeat those again. One is the accumulated money. The second one is lifestyle money. And then the third is transferred money. Transferred money is money that people are transferring away from their circle of wealth unknowingly and unnecessarily. The big thing that we focus on with the transferred money is to try to identify where wealth is escaping people, and oftentimes they don't really realize it.
Yeah, I know. We had a seminar on that. I think you even presented that seminar here last year at the Builders Show.
Oh, that's right, at the Parker County Builders Association.
Right. On transferred money. Now you're transferring it from where to where?
Well, what happens is unnecessary transfers occur. A good example would be the automobile, the personal car, for example. First of all, most people, when they go buy a car, they don't really care necessarily what the car costs. What they care about is what the monthly payment's going to be.
Right.
The car salesman says, well, how much can you afford, or what's in your budget, or how much do you want to spend each month, and then he'll put you in the car accordingly to that issue. Basically, one of the things we look at is we show you the total cost of car ownership over a period of time, say 20, 30 years. And again, this is one major wealth transfer. One of the things we do is we have a way where you can start to a plan where you put money into a conservative account, and then at the end of a 3 or 4 year period or 3 year period, you have the ability to purchase a car and pay cash for it, and then you can just redo that again and again. So you're paying cash, you're becoming your own bank. And we're really big on the consumer becoming their own bank, because if you think about it, Jim, who's got all the money?
Right.
The banks.
All right, we've got to take another break here. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you having a construction-related issue? Do you need a construction attorney? If so, you may call the law firm of Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Kelly's family background in the construction industry has led to her focus in construction litigation, with over 9 years of experience practicing construction law in and around the metro area. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com, or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009. Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Principal offices are located in Lewisville, Texas.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guest today is Jim Kuhner with Benefit Light Financial, and he also owns Wealth Education Strategies, LLC. And we've been talking about house or a money investment, whether to invest in your house or in your other accounts. And it's actually a personal choice and what you want to do. And we were talking, we were asking, we had some statements. There was 4 statements that were made earlier in the show. And if you will email me the answers at jim@masterbuildershow.com, jim@masterbuildershow.com. And the first statement was, these are all true or false, and it's going to be a large down payment will save you money more on your mortgage over time than a small down payment. A large down payment will save you more money on your mortgage over time than a small down payment. Is that true or false? Second question, or the second statement was a 15-year mortgage will save you money over time than a 30-year mortgage. A 15-year mortgage will save you more money over time than a 30-year mortgage. Is that true or is that false? Also, making extra principal payments saves you money. Is that true or false? making extra principal payments. That's question number 3. Making extra principal payments saves you money. Is that true or false? And the 4th statement is that interest rate is the main factor in determining the cost of mortgage. Is that true or false? The interest rate is the main factor in determining the cost of the mortgage. True or false? And you can email me the answers at Jim at masterbuildershow.com. All right, Jim Kuhner, what are you looking at? Oh, he's looking at something on the computer here.
Oh, that's okay. I also wanted to emphasize that the gift for that, whoever gets the answers right, the first person is a $50 gift certificate to Chili's, and they can pick that up at the studio here. Once we find a winner, we'll send you the email.
All right, yeah. Just include your email address. I'll have it automatically when they send me the question or send me the answers to the questions. We were talking about transfers before the break.
Right, yeah, exactly. We were talking about major wealth transfers, and really, this is a different way to look at your financial picture and your net worth. In other words, one of the things we try to focus on, there are basically 3 major areas of wealth transfers, and that's taxes, as far as different kinds of taxes that you may be paying unnecessarily, unknowingly, through proper tax planning and through strategies. Oftentimes you can reduce your tax liability. I don't know about you, Jim, but most people I know, if they can figure out a way not to pay tax, they kind of like that idea, don't they?
Oh, I know. Most everybody hates to pay taxes. I mean, it's a necessary evil.
And one of the things we do, I talked earlier about building your own bank, being your own banker, so to speak. Well, the account we use, the money actually grows in that account tax deferred. In other words, it's not being taxed. And you actually have access to that money where you can make a down payment on a car or maybe buy a piece of real estate, and you don't have to pay taxes because you're actually borrowing from yourself, and then you pay yourself back. So essentially, you are becoming your own bank. So again, we're talking about major wealth transfers that may be occurring with someone's wealth, as far as their circle of wealth, unknowingly and unnecessarily. We mentioned taxes. Another big one are basic expenses. For example, credit cards. We talked a lot about how you manage your mortgage, some concepts there with the fact that you make zero return on equity in a home. The only thing that affects your net worth is either appreciation or depreciation. We also talked about the effective percentage rate on how to calculate the cost of money and whether or not to locate the money inside the house or outside the house. And again, I want to emphasize, if you choose to locate your money outside of the house, make sure you deal with someone that actually understands what we're talking about, and make sure it's a conservative place that you're putting the money. You don't want any risk associated with it. Also, mortgage insurance, for example, can be an unnecessary transfer. Financing a car. We talked about trading cars. So, again, these are various types of expenses that oftentimes, if you really look at the the cost effect over a long period of time, you can make some different choices.
Well, like I said, I'm not recommending one or the other. Everybody's going to have to reach out deep down and decide what they want to do. I mean, like I say, it depends on, I would think it depends on your age. If you're 25, 30, even 40 years old, but if you're up 55, 60, 70 years old, I'm still more like my parents, I think.
Well, and many people are, and that's okay. I think really what someone needs to do is just evaluate both sides of the coin, so to speak. Another area of major wealth transfer, which I think some people can identify with, deals with protection elements. And here I'm talking about, your auto insurance, your homeowner's insurance, your major medical coverage. For example, with your major medical coverage, a lot of people choose to have a higher deductible with their major medical coverage to keep their monthly costs down. So,
right.
Again, that can be an unnecessary wealth transfer where maybe you have a $500 major medical deductible, and maybe you could switch that to $2,500, especially if you're healthy.
Right. I think I know a lot of your big corporations now have gone to a high deductible just because insurance costs have gone up so much.
Right, yes. Healthcare inflation is really quite high. It has come back a little bit in recent years, but really the only type of inflation that I'm aware of that's higher than healthcare is college. Yeah. College tuition, because I actually have a son that's a freshman in college, and You talk about wealth transfers, Jim. I got a major one right there.
Hope it's a wise investment.
Well, I don't know. Only time's going to tell with him, but he works hard, so that's the main thing. As long as he works hard, it's well worth it.
Well, yeah. He's playing football up there too, isn't he?
Right. Yep. He's going to play football, I believe. At least his dad wants him to play, if you know what I mean. Again, I want to repeat to the listeners the offer that, and I've got one other thing to offer the listeners. Again, I am with the National Institute of Financial Education, as we mentioned earlier, Jim, and our big thing is to educate the consumer. We believe that financial freedom begins with financial education, and a more learned consumer can make wiser choices. So a couple things I have to offer the listeners if they're interested. Again, they need to send you an email. And your email address again, Jim?
It's jim@masterbuildershow.com. jim@masterbuildershow.com.
Okay, the first, again, is a free DVD. It's titled Who Holds This Peace at Your House? And it mentions peace, and what we're really talking about is control. So it's who holds control at your house. And it talks about tax deductions, down payments, inflation, prepayments, some of the things we've been talking about, equity, appreciation, as I said. The second thing, and we'll mention this very briefly, this could be a show all by itself, deals with credit. There are basically four things that happen when someone looks at you borrowing money from them. And we call it the 4 C's at the Institute. It's capacity, collateral, credit, and character. Okay, so really your credit score is about 70%, Jim, of the decision-making process. Obviously, capacity has to do with whether or not you have the ability to pay and whether or not you've paid your bills in the past. Has to do with, where you work and your income and all that type of stuff. But I do have a free report that anybody that wants this, it's called Credit Scoring and Wealth, the game of credit. Again, it's a 9-page report. If they'll send you an email, I can go ahead and send them out to it in a PDF form.
All right, we've got to wrap up this week's show, and we'll be back here next Tuesday morning.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you having a construction-related issue? Do you need a construction attorney? If so, you may call the law firm of Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Kelly's family background in the construction industry has led to her focus in construction litigation with over 9 years of experience practicing construction law in and around the metro area. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009. Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Principal offices are located in Louisville, Texas.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Alamo Appliance, 100 South Riverside Drive in Fort Worth, has been dedicated to serving your needs in kitchen appliances for over 35 years. They offer Genair, KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Amana, and many others. Their experienced sales staff will help you make the right decisions at the right time. That's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701. Once again, that's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116.
Kelly Davis, and I've been practicing law since 1999. Since I was raised in the construction industry, my primary focus of my practice has been on construction issues. While Texas is not hurting as much economically as many other states, I have seen a huge swing in people not getting paid for the work they perform, or what we refer to in the legal business as slow payers. And the other things that we have seen a lot of lately are builders going bankrupt. Right now, for example, one of the major things that my law firm does is try to collect money for suppliers, vendors, and subcontractors. One way to do this is through the Mechanics Lien process. On the flip side, we also have homeowners who find themselves in the situation of having Mechanics Liens filed on their home that they are having built. So today we're going to talk about these two situations. A lot of people ask, what exactly is a Mechanics Lien? A Mechanics Lien is a lien that goes against the title to real property. And it's created to secure persons who have either labored or have provided labor, materials, machinery, fixtures, or tools to erect or repair or even remodel improvements to land. The most important thing about filing Mechanics Liens is that you have to get it right. In Texas, there are several different types of Mechanics Liens depending on whether or not you're a builder, a subcontractor, or a vendor. Each one has their own requirements which specify certain time frames, letters to be sent notifying the property owner of a potential lien, lien language requirements, and filing requirements. The biggest thing to remember in Texas is that if you do one thing wrong with the filing of your lien, it actually invalidates the entire lien. Some of the biggest mistakes I see are, number one, people waiting too long to begin the Mechanics Lien process. Many times people really believe that they're going to get paid, and perhaps they are, but if they wait too long, they are not able to successfully file a valid Mechanics Lien. For residential projects, for example, you have to send a notice letter, and the notice letter has to go out no later than the second month after the work is performed on the house. So, as an example, if work is performed in the month of April, that means by June 15th, a notice letter has to go out. If you don't do your billing until the end of April, that only gives about 30 days before you have to start filing or working on the Mechanics Lien process. The second big mistake I see is that the notice letters or the Mechanics Liens themselves don't have the correct language in them, or they're even sent to the wrong parties. Sometimes people don't understand who actually owns the property. They believe it's the builder, and the builder actually has a different company that owns the property. So if the notice letter is not sent to the correct party with the correct entity name, then that too will invalidate the lien. The third big mistake I see is that they fail to give notice to the proper parties of the filing of the Mechanics Lien within the time period required. Texas has quite a few rules as it relates to who it is that's supposed to get notice of the filing of the Mechanics Lien and how long you have to actually give them notice once you file the Mechanics Lien. The fourth biggest mistake is that many companies believe that they can file them by themselves. While it is possible for a company to do this right, it's very complicated, and it's a very complicated area of law even for attorneys. It's taken my firm many years and drafting hundreds and hundreds a year to automate the process and make sure there are no mistakes. Most of the time, companies will go years with many invalid liens before they actually get it right. A process we like to call trial and error, which I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to somebody owing you money, you don't want to do it through trial and error. The biggest misnomer pretty much of everyone around is that the Mechanics Lien process is expensive. Trust me, you can protect your investment into a house without spending a lot of money. So, a lot of times, subcontractors or vendors will say, I filed my Mechanics Lien. What do I do next to get paid? Usually, if you get to it early enough in the building process, you normally wait until somebody tries to buy whatever the property is, and you end up getting paid at the closing of the property. Sometimes a lien is filed too late. The house has already been sold to a homeowner or put into a homeowner's name, and then you must wait until the property owner decides to either pay you, refinance or sell their property, or work out a deal to have you paid through the actual builder. One thing it is important to note, though, is that for property owners, most mortgage companies consider a mechanics lien to be an active default under their mortgage. So most of the time when homeowners get liens filed on their house, they certainly are going to do whatever they can to try to get it removed. On the flip side, if you're a homeowner and you're listening to this show today, you may be wondering, there's a lien threatening to be filed on my property. What is it that I do? Or it's possible that you've already had a lien filed on your property. Many homeowners are shocked that their personal property is what gets attached to or liened when it's a builder who hasn't paid. Weekly, my office gets calls from homeowners who are understandably upset about a notice that they have received in the mail. Most of the time, they claim to have already paid their builder. One of the things that I tell them is that their property will be liened if they cannot get the builder to pay what is owed. So what is it that this notice letter that you get as a homeowner, what does it do and what does it require a homeowner to do? There is some positives to the mechanics lien process, I believe. The reason why mechanics liens are so hard to file, as I previously discussed in Texas, is because the state of Texas has a long-standing history of protecting homestead and property rights. The notice letter that you receive as a homeowner informs you that there's a problem and that someone hasn't gotten paid. It also tells you to withhold payment from the builder, at least enough to pay the claim, immediately until the issue is resolved. As an attorney, we often advise homeowners that they need to stop paying the builder until we can get these issues resolved and make sure that there are not other subs or vendors that haven't been paid. In order to limit your liability for mechanics liens, you must also withhold something called a retainage, which is actually 10% of your contract price, including your change orders. So, for example, if you have a $300,000 house, you're supposed to withhold $30,000 total retainage from the builder. And the builder does not get paid on that until after all the mechanics lien deadlines have passed, until they have signed something called an all bills paid affidavit swearing that everybody has been paid. If you withhold this amount and then you do get notices of mechanics liens or mechanics liens filed on your property, if you have done what you are supposed to do as a homeowner by withholding the retainage amount, for instance, the $30,000, and if you don't pay the builder anything after receiving notice of the claim until the claim is worked out, you are limiting your liability as a homeowner. Technically, you can't be liable for paying any more than the retainage amount, which is the $30,000, and the amount that you withheld from the builder once you got notice of the claim. Really, you're not out anything more than what you were required to pay to begin with. So I think that while everybody's frustrated with the mechanics lien process in the state of Texas, these laws are put in place for a purpose, and they are put in place to try to protect the homeowner from paying out any more than they have to pay. And they're put in place to give everybody notice of the liens where they can get paid prior to the job closing. Next time I'm on the air, I'll be discussing a hot topic for Fort Worth Metroplex right now, oil and gas. If you need to contact me, call me at 972-434-8009. Otherwise, visit us on the web at www.kmdalegal.com. That's www.kmdalegal.com. See you soon.